watch this. All right. So what's good, everybody? Welcome back to another Q&A webinar. So we're going to start off the webinar with a breakdown. I'm going to start off with probably silver, gold, and move on to GJ. So very interesting day when it comes down to silver and what we could potentially project over the next few days and where we could see silver to go to. So for those of you who've been my students for quite some time, you guys should automatically see the setup here. So if we look at silver on the daily time frame, we've actually closed above resistance here at 23.31298, which we also do have the weekly highest close, which is a great sign for silver to continue to trade higher. Now that we've identified that silver is actually making higher highs, you have to ask yourself the question, where could we potentially see silver travel to? This is when you want to stay on a higher time frame to make that determination. And based off of this daily time frame, the area I see silver traveling up to is this next level of resistance, this next level of support up here. So call it 24, which again, you for those of you who trade psychological levels, this is that psychological level. So we definitely could see silver come all the way up to the resistance at about 24, maybe even 23.8, which is roughly the same thing. Now, once you've made the determination that, hey, I see silver coming up to 24, you have to ask yourselves, how could I possibly take advantage of this opportunity? So if we look at the daily time frame, what we could see here is resistance, resistance, resistance. So now that price is actually broken above resistance, the best thing for you to wait for silver to actually do is a pull back into resistance, wait and see if resistance holds a support where you look to buy, and then you could actually look to buy all the way up to this 24 level. And that's all based off the daily. If we go to the 4-hour time frame, we could see things a little bit clearer where price is broken above and closed above resistance. So this is a nice break of resistance. So I'm going to wait for price to pretty much come back down into this area, wait for that retest, where I'll then look to buy from this area if price actually does reject that area. Because remember, sometimes my price might pull back a little bit steeper and then continue higher. So for the break and retest to be valid, I need to see price actually reject this area again and then look to take price higher. Probably up into this zone would be my next target when it comes down to silver. So what we could wait for on a 30-minute time frame, maybe even an hour time frame, is for price to actually come into this area, give us maybe some form of a double bottom if you want to be a little bit more conservative, and then look to take price higher. So that's what I'm going to be waiting for on silver. So if you're going to look to take this trade, potentially, what you could look for is, let's say you're long someone in this area, again, stop loss under support. Now, it depends on how support actually forms. So let's say this is a bearish candlestick and this is a bullish engulfing candlestick. If the bearish wick is down here and the bullish wick is here, how I would set myself up is I put the stops under the lowest wick. And then at that point in time, my first target is going to be this high right here, which is going to potentially pay me out 2.3 times my risk. And then I'll trail my stop loss up to about 24, where we could have another 5-to-1 risk to reward ratio trade. Same trade that happened over here. One thing I had talked about when silver did break above this resistance level. Let me let all these other people in really quick. So one thing that I had talked about previously with this resistance level on silver was once price broke above, we're going to wait for the retest, and then we're going to look to take price higher up to the next level of resistance, which was up here in this range, and that played out very nicely, pretty much straight shot up. And I'm going to be looking for the same thing here on silver. So the same thing could actually play out. So notice how initially, right, price looked like it was going to continue to trade higher, but then ended up pulling back into the zone where, again, we want to wait for our setup to actually form, and then we're going to take the trade. Now, gold, it's roughly the same. So I actually see gold buys. The reason why I see gold buys is if we look at a daily time frame, right, 1813 is that level of resistance we've been paying attention to for quite some time, where we see that there is a lot of buying and selling pressure in this area, right? This is a rejection candlestick. Notice the big rejection to the downside, and notice price ended up closing at support, or potentially even a little bit above support, depending on how you see things, depending on how you draw out your zones. So this is a big rejection candlestick. So what I'm going to be expecting, what I'm going to be waiting for is for some form of a buy signal on the lower time frames, such as the hour time frame. So definitely we'll start to see gold buys if price can actually break above this high right here. Once we can break above this high here, maybe even down here if you want to be a little bit more aggressive and start trading above 1816, then most likely we're going to continue to trade higher, and price could we could see price come all the way back up to 1830, which is a big possibility. And especially that silver looks like it's going to continue to trade higher. Gold is also a commodity as well. We could see gold actually trade higher there as well. So once price starts to break above 1816 is really when I'll start to look to buy, especially if you're a little bit more conservative. Maybe even if price can actually form a bullish engulfing off of this 50 SMA, we could see price continue to trade higher too, where I'll look to take price up to this area here, which is roughly like 1827, 1830, that entire range there. So as long as gold maintains above this support level, then we should see it trade higher. Remember, it looks like it broke under the 4-hour time frame, but you bump up to the time frame that we drew the resistance level on. It's very well rejected. This is a nice rejection candle to the downside. So we could potentially see gold go up. And what will give us more confirmation tomorrow is if we see gold form a bullish engulfing candlestick, which is definitely a possibility. So one thing that we also want to have marked off on our charts is our previous day's high, which is right here. So if gold especially breaks above that previous day high right here, we'll see price come to 1830 very, very easily. So again, there's multiple things you could wait on. You could wait on the break of 1816, or you can wait for that bullish engulfing candlestick here on this 4-hour time frame, which roughly they should look somewhat the same. Now, if gold actually starts to break this support level, which is a different thing, we'll see price most likely come back down into 1797. So those are the two things that I'm going to wait for. And again, if gold breaks this support level, best thing to do, break, retest, look for price to come down into 1797. That's the best thing to do in that situation. I am currently long bias on it, even though on this intraday time frame, it looks like it could continue to trade lower. Again, mainly my main hypothesis is based off of this daily time frame. Again, you got to remember supply and demand, support and resistance is all a zone. So this is a zone for that area. And so far we have rejected the zone. Let me let everyone else in really quick. So that's what I'm going to be waiting for when it comes down to gold. So we'll see how that plays out over the next couple of hours. GJ was a very, very interesting day earlier today. Pretty easy moves to catch, I want to say. So for those of you that didn't catch GJ, I'll explain to you guys how I caught GJ. It was pretty easy. So when it came down to GJ again on the daily time frame, one thing that we've identified and one thing that we need to have at the front of our minds is that 156.550 is that level of resistance where we have resistance here. Now, when yesterday's daily candle didn't engulf and didn't close above resistance, didn't close above the previous day's high, and on the contrary, rejected this area and closed very weak, that should have been an indication for you to actually look to sell. Why? Simple. We rejected resistance. If price was going to continue to go higher, it would have closed above resistance, where things would have been a little bit different, and it would have closed above this area here being the previous day's high. So all I simply did was identify what the lower time frames were doing. And what you could see here on these lower time frames is that price ended up coming back to this level of resistance where we had a big sell signal. This was the first signal for you to actually look to go short, that big bearish engulfing candlestick. Also notice how the bearish engulfing candlestick closed under the lowest low of the previous bullish candlestick. So this right here was the first signal for you to sell. Along with the cross of the moving averages was another signal for you to potentially look to short. Now, I didn't sell or make any decisions during this candlestick because one, we weren't in session, and two, this candlestick was trading up here when I saw it. You always want to wait for the candlesticks to close for the confirmation because I'm sure a lot of people got trapped on buys at this point in time, which if you scalped it, it's perfectly fine. That's totally up to you as long as you make money on it. That's what's more important than being wrong long term. What's more important is making money at the end of the day. If you made money, great, right? Now, once price actually closed, this 4-hour candlestick actually closed, this was the second signal for you to sell. Why? Because price rejected resistance yet again, also rejecting these 4-hour highs and maintaining under this 50 SMA. These are all sell signals here. At this point in time, you could have actually looked to go on the hour time frame, and how you would have traded it would have been ultimately up to you as a trader. But if you look at the hour time frame, the hour intraday structure, here we have the highs, here we have resistance. You could see price has failed to actually start breaking above resistance. On the contrary, there is a double top pattern here. So you could have sold at this point in time, you could have sold at this point in time. If you trade a little bit more aggressively, such as me, 30-minute time frame, you could have sold maybe even somewhere up here once price actually did reject resistance with this very clean double top pattern. And remember, right here is our first sell signal. Why? Because it shows that price in the 4-hour time frame rejected resistance. So that's where you could have looked to actually sell. And then when it comes down to targets being this level down here, this 4-hour support, and then second targets being this other 4-hour level of support there. So I do see price continuing to go bearish, maybe over the next couple of days. I do see price continuing to trade lower, potentially even tonight, just because of the fact that price is now trading under this area here. Notice how price is also losing momentum as well. So I'm going to wait for another retest of this area here, where if price holds as resistance, I'll look to take price down here first, and then to this level of support over here. So that's what I'm going to be waiting for tonight as well. Now things may change once price starts trading maybe around 156,400, possibly even 156,556. I may actually start looking to buy, but as long as price can actually maintain under this area here, which again, support, right? If price can actually hold support as resistance, then I'll look to take price down here. But first, we need to break under this area. So that's what I'm going to be looking for tonight's trade. So whoever has any questions, you guys are more than welcome to unmute your mic and ask me any questions on the setups. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be on GJ. Doesn't have to be in gold. Whatever pair you want me to actually.
Yo, what's up, bro?
What's going on, bro?
Hey, so not a specific pair that I'm going to talk about, but today I was actually looking at gold. I was looking at shorting gold, and I noticed that I missed my entry and had actually sat on my hands. Is that something that you would have done too, or would have used less risk, or how exactly would have done your risk appetite there?
Well, if it depends. What would the risk to reward have been, even with your entry being missed?
It was about like a little bit less than 2-1.
Then I wouldn't have taken the trade. I would have just sat on my hands.
Got it.
Yeah, that's sometimes the best thing to do is just to sit on your hands.
I got a question. So let's say you were going long, but then it didn't hit your support. It's like probably like 50 pips away from your support. Would you still take it at the trade?
What do you mean by that?
Like, let's say it retraced, right? But then you're 50 pips away from your support, and then it gave you a bullish engulfing. Would you still take the trade? Like, it didn't hit your support.
I mean, it depends, because when it comes down to like support and resistance, supply and demand, like you have your touch gap and overlap. But typically, like, just look at this situation here, right? This was pretty far away from my support level, gave me that bullish engulfing. I didn't take the trade because my trade setup was down here at support. You always want to buy as close to support as possible, because your stops have to go under support for it to be a valid stop loss. So at that point in time, I wouldn't take the trade.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Hey, bro, I got a question real quick.
Yeah.
Since you intraday trade, do you draw out your zones mainly on the 4-hour time frame?
Yeah.
As well as.
So to me, the 4-hour and the daily levels are always going to be way more important than the hour levels. Plus, we're going to see bigger moves at the daily levels and the 4-hour levels, even though I'm trading the hour levels. So like when it comes down to GJ, right, this level here is based off the daily. All I did was look for an entry on the hour time frame. But what I could have also done as well is identified that, hey, here we have support. This is a 4-hour level of support, right? And notice how it's kind of holding as resistance now. All I really have to wait for at this point in time is my sell signal. Because you got to remember, like, the higher the time frame, the more quality the level is going to be. So that's kind of how I like to structure my support and resistance levels, my supply and demand levels, and take trades based off of those levels. And even like going down to like as much detail as possible. Like you see this wick right here, right? Notice on this wick, all of the candles here on the hour time frame fail to close under. It's like, it's just little things like that that you pick up over time. But even then, like knowing the fact that like this is daily support here, and on the it's a combination of all the time frames. We know on the 4-hour time frame, price closed under resistance, showing us that price could continue to trade lower. It pulled back, double top of the hour, and then continued to trade lower after that point. So even though I use intraday time frames, I try and focus on like my 4-hour levels as best as I possibly can. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, bro. Appreciate it.
All right, cool.
Hey, Raul, I have a question for you. So I've been working on recognizing the patterns of the candles.
Okay.
Do you recommend any specific kind of pair to start doing that, or just pick the pair that you want to start trading
on? So what I would do first is obviously I'd go over the market structure section of the course. Once you were able to identify market structure very well, you kind of skim through all the pairs that fit your criteria in terms of what time frames or what time zones you're going to be trading. So if you're trading like the London session, I would focus on pairs that move the most during the London session, and then scan through all of the pairs that move during the London session. And whatever pairs you can identify market structure on the 4-hour time frame very well, I would stick to those pairs and focus on those pairs and focus on how the candlesticks form and everything else on those pairs. Because like if you look at like gold, right? People may have a lot of hard time identifying what gold is doing versus GJ. You know what I mean? They're two completely different assets. So that's what I would do. That's what I would advise you to do.
All right, sweet. So start with the market structure and then move to the candle and then just go from there.
Yeah.
Awesome, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, Raul. I have a question. Yeah. All right, so I know you just brought on like GJ, but when I was like, if you look on the weekly, okay, and I see that there is if you zoom out, there is that that level of resistance at specifically 155,900 right there over to the left.
Right here?
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
So that area right there being weekly resistance, and the week that closed before closed above it. And looking at the daily, seeing that 2 days ago or 3 days ago, price tested that area and the one to the right.
Right here?
No, it's actually the 2 days before where we just closed. Yeah, that one right there. Yeah. Seeing how price claimed all the way back down, but the day yesterday couldn't even close lower than the low, and it came back up. Wouldn't you say that there's like very strong level of weekly demand in that area that could actually push price back up?
I would say that if you focus like on the weekly time frame here, what we see like way back here is that price failed to close under 150, or price failed to break 156,589. The week after, we saw a huge bearish reaction to the downside where price actually came all the way almost into the 140s again from being in the mid 150s range. So now when we look at price with current price, at least, right, is horizontal line that I have right here shows us where price rejected on this specific week. As of right now, price is trading under that area, but what we have to do is go to lower time frames and see what the lower time frames are doing. As you can see, price actually ended up closing under that area and we're trading under it now. So for us to continue to look to sell, I want to see that sell confirmation being a bearish engulfing candlestick, being a bearish variation pattern, whatever the case might be, is as long as price can maintain under, because right now price is under it, right? As long as price can maintain under, we'll look to actually continue to go short. Now, once price starts to break above it, then we'll look to potentially continue to go long. But again, like, as you can see here, we're under it right now. We're under it. We're still trading under this area. So again, when we're under a level, we're at resistance. When we're above a level, we're at support.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Raul.
Yeah.
Quick question for you, Raul.
Yeah.
In terms of trading sessions, say you see a setup forming, is it okay to place a trade prior to the session opening, or would you wait for the session to open and wait for the volatility to kick in and then place the trade?
Ultimately, that's up to you. From my experience, it's kind of a double-edged sword because if you wait for session to actually start and you see your setup, what actually might happen is one of the two. Price is either going to go directly in your, or maybe not even one of the two. You're going to have one of three options that's going to happen. Price will go directly in your favor and you're going to profit, or price will go for a liquidity grab, take people out of the trade, and then go into profit, or price is just going to go completely against you. So maybe that's something that you'd want to backtest on how you do it. Personally, whenever I see my setup, if we're not too far from session, maybe an hour or two max, I may take the trade. But the thing with the London session is that I typically always like to wait for that 4-hour close on the 1 a.m. candlestick, just so we can get a little bit of a better direction and we have a higher time frame close. So typically, I very much do my best not to enter until 1 a.m., which is pre-market London hours for us.
Got you.
Hey, bro, I got a question though.
What's up, bro?
So, how long do usually your trades last? Because, for example, in the London session, let's say that you put a position let's say 1 to 2 a.m. and then at 4 or 5 a.m. there's usually pullbacks that your trade just got fucked up,
I mean, it's up to you. Like, if you look at the GJ trade, I was short from this point to about this point on. This is when I actually ended up closing the position somewhere along this area here, but I held all throughout here to see if this area would actually break, and I ended up closing once price started to break over here. So you're talking about that's like a 10.
Yeah, the pullbacks. How do you usually manage the pullbacks? You just watch the resistance and supply zones, or you just
I identify okay, if price is trading down here already, right? Okay. I know until New York session we're either going to pull back or continue or consolidate. Again, it's very situational. And let's say I was still holding my GJ position, right? I know that we can expect a pullback up to here. Am I comfortable losing all of this potential profit here? Is that something that's going to hurt me? If I'm not comfortable losing all that profit, because remember, just because price is going to pull back to here doesn't mean it's going to continue. So I don't know if this price is going to continue to trade higher or continue to go in my favor. So I ask myself, am I comfortable potentially losing and giving back this amount of profit to the market? If I make a decision that I'm not comfortable with it, I'll close the position. Maybe even throw my stops down to this area here. Everybody's going to do it very differently. Typically when there's a big move like this, I like to get out,
Okay. All right, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That was a great question. I had something very similar to that. I'm glad you asked that question.
Yeah.
Yo, Ro, I have a question.
Hello.
Yes, I have a question. All right, so for example, right there on the GJ on the 156, 556 level, on the video you're talking about stop loss. Obviously on the 4 hour, if you go to the 4 hour, it was the 4 hour they're all just wicks. But if you go to the smaller, like the 1 hour, you can see that candles actually closed above with a nice rejection on that 156 level. So would that be considered would you consider that like a stop hunt, or would you consider that like because honestly from that move to the previous close, that'll be like a nice 15, 20 minutes. 20 pips, be like a scalp right there. But what would you consider that? Would you consider like a scalp or more like a stop hunt type of thing?
Like you're talking about this move?
Yeah, because you can see on the smaller time frame, candle closed above it. But if you go to the 4 hour, it's just on a rejection with a big.
I would consider it to be a stop hunt because if you think about it, if we do this, right, and we go to the 4 hour time frame. Most retail traders are, let's say if they're short from this area, their stop loss may be around this area here. And if there's going to be a big move that's anticipated, there's going to be a liquidity grab. And where's my thing? If we press play, you'll see the liquidity grab. And then right after the stops get taken out, price goes in your favor. So I would consider this to be a stop hunt.
That was news, actually, 9:45.
Yeah, even more. It makes more sense. There's always stop hunts during news. That's why I do my best never to trade news.
Hey, yo, Raul. Good evening. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is the best time frame to see or to look at established resistance or established support?
Personally, my favorite time frame is a 4 hour, the daily time frame. That's my favorite.
Okay. You first see established resistance, the price is rejecting an example, resistance, and then go for a 1 hour time frame to look at the candlestick formation.
Mm-hmm. So if you're looking at resistance, right, again, you want to tie all time frames together, because if we look at this example here on GJ, right, let's say this 4 hour candle was still floating and you see price close above like this. Most people are probably like, oh, we broke above this area, but then the 4 hour candlestick closes and it closed right under. That's a clear rejection. So it's all about tying in the time frames and knowing what to do in terms of time frame correlation. Typically, what I like to do is once there's established rejection on the 4 hour time frame, I'll then go down to a lower time frame, maybe look for a more aggressive entry to minimize my risk and maximize my reward as best as possible. And then, sometimes it'll pay off. Sometimes I'll get an entry with very little drawdown. But then sometimes I'll just be flat out wrong and price will go completely against me. Ultimately, it's up to you on how you want to take that position. So you could wait for the 4 hour to go up to that area, look for the rejection. Once price is in that area, maybe look for some form of a double top, a double bottom around your resistance level or support level, where price will then continue to trade lower.
Okay, I got it. Thanks.
Yo, Raul.
Yo, bro.
Hey, as far as trading stops, like, what are your parameters? What are your rules on that? Because I feel like that's one of my biggest buzzkills.
For trailing my stop loss?
Yeah.
Well, it depends, because it all depends on my target. It all depends on if, I'm expecting a big move or not, or I'm going to be expecting big pullbacks. But I'll tell you how I did it on GJ here. So pretty much once price was already in profit and GJ was trading somewhere down here at support, at that point in time, I was thinking about getting out. I wasn't sure. So all I simply did was move my stop loss to break even, which was somewhere down here. Once price actually broke under support, I moved my stop loss to this high right here. Once price came down here, pulled back, and continued to trade lower, I moved my stop loss down here. Once price came up and then down into that area, I moved my stop loss right about here. And then at that point in time is pretty much where I got taken out of the trade. So I moved it based off that 5-minute structure, because I knew if the 5-minute structure were to change, then most likely we're going to see a bigger pullback like on the hour time frame. And I didn't want to give back too much profit to the market.
All right. So you're using the 5-minute structure as far as trading your stop?
Yes, you can do that, but it can also be a double-edged sword. I mean, my bad, 5 minute, 15 minutes.
Right.
You can do that, but it could also be a double-edged sword, because you'll see maybe something like this happen and the price continue to trade lower. So ultimately, it's up to you. You got to figure out what works for me may not work exactly for you, but what I'm doing is laying out the foundation and giving you the ideology, so then you could go and formulate how you're going to do it and what works with your personality,
Got it. Thanks, man.
Yeah, but that's a way you could do it. Swing traders are a little bit different, though, for swing trading.
Hey, Raul, how you doing, brother?
Bro.
Hey, Raul, I have a question. Should be for JU.
Okay.
And I would like to you do a little breakdown for me. I have a couple concerns. It's about because I'm a scalper and also I'm trying to become swing trader right now. So I keep seeing aggressive trades everywhere. On the 4 time frame chart, there is an kind of creating right now and a bullish engulfing. I noticed that on the daily time frame, on that specific level on 136, there have been too much reactions, and they're always the price never just break it and go free. But this time it did it, and so my concern is with this strange that you see in the market, could you even then looks like is the price is trending bearish, could you see it maybe a break of a structure and maybe go bullish on that one?
The thing is, like with GU, if you look at it on a weekly time frame, it looks like it's bearish and it could continue to come down maybe to this weekly support that's over here, right? But then you go to a daily time frame and there's support. Price is clearly closed under support. I would want to wait to see how this day closes, because if this day closes above, right, then it's a tested candle and it shows that support actually did end up rejecting. If you go to the 4-hour time frame though, what it looks like could happen is for price to actually come back into this area where you could actually look to take a sell from that area. That's based off of this 4-hour time frame, because if you just zoom out on the 4-hour time frame, like notice how many times price has rejected that support level here, right? And now that it's kind of broken back above, it came right back under. Now we're trading here. So it looks like price could actually continue to go down from this area. Thing is, like, if for me to look to want to buy, I would want to, let me see, I would want to see the hour structure do something like this, right? Where we have a 3-leg extension. And then I would want to see these moving averages cross like blue over red, or red over, blue over red. That's how I would want to see price, because then we have more bullish volume. So I would actually look to short GU from this area back down to this area, which is that area on the weekly time frame. That's about a 65 pip range. So that's kind of what I would look for on GU, and especially that this trend is very, very bearish right now. I wouldn't look to buy. So I'm kind of undecisive with GU right now.
All right, yeah, I'm just in the same page than you. Like,
yeah,
looks like it could go somewhere, anywhere.
Yeah, it's at one of those levels. If you want to play it safer though, you could wait for break, retest, and then down to the weekly level.
All right, awesome, brother. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah. Nah, keep going, bro. You have to do your thing.
Sorry, I don't have a webcam. I'm at work right now, bro. But I just got a quick psychology question, real quick. So I was on GJ last night, and my take profit came to like micro pips away. I don't even know how I didn't take out my take profit, but like, what do you do with your psychology when you see something like that to not second guess yourself? Because I'm trying not to, get in the habit of trying to move it. Or if you're monitoring it, will you take it like micro pips before your take profit if you're like already in there? Or
yeah, it depends on the setup too. Like if I'm anticipating a break, I'll maybe wait a little bit longer. But if it's like micro pips away from your take profit, I would just close it.
Yeah, just like it played games and like it shot back up for a little bit of a pullback, but then it came down and eventually took it out. But it just took me an extra like few hours, which was kind of annoying.
Well, definitely. I get the frustration. Oh, that's what I would have done though. If it's like micro pips, I would have just closed it. Because then you have the risk of like, especially if it's a major level, of price just completely pulling back on you. You're like micro pips away from getting out.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, bro. Anybody else have a question?
Yeah, I had a question.
What's up, bro?
I know you're making a video on it soon, but I was just wondering quickly, when you back test, do you just go and do you find a setup and then cut back to like just before the move and then pretend as if, find reasons that you'll take the trade, or do you just click randomly and work through like a month at a time?
So when I back test, essentially what I'm doing is I'm going to the daily, right? What I'll do is I'll press replay. Then you can actually, hold on, it's kind of slow. So you got to actually go to which I believe is here. Let's go let's just click back about a year. So let's go to January here, go to, press replay, and then there. That's how I would start. Then I pretty much do the same thing, top-down analysis, identify my levels, and then just see how price actually trades through. I'll make sure my indicator session is on, so I know that I'm only taking trades maybe an hour or two before session. right? You kind of click through until session actually comes up, and then pretty much you just back test from there. Like if you're kind of actually trading live, is how I would do it.
Okay, so then yeah, and then you'd go through the whole month, like go through a number of days in a row.
Normally, you want to get at least like 100 trades.
Yeah. Okay, sweet.
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else have any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Yeah, it was good, bro. Wait, you don't trade US30? Yeah.
Not really.
Nah, because it was just a quick question on that. Because on 30 on the 4 hour, I don't know if you can see it, but there's like a big if you go to the 4 hour, like the overall trend, we're like in a descending wedge. We're just trending like in a.
Really quick, if the webinar ends, I'll just restart it. Just wanted to throw it out there. About what you're saying?
Oh, my bad about that. No, yeah, because so on US30 in the higher time frame, we're like in a trending, right? And then well, on my chart, we broke that trend. But pretty much like for US30, how would like, because I've been like, that's what I've been kind of having trouble like time, like kind of tying up the time frame for 30. It's kind of more be on some shit because it kind of moves more. Because I'm mostly up just more London, and then I know it moves more crazy like New York session.
Yeah,
but
wait till New York session.